Hey everyone, this is Nancee-Laetitia Marin, author, line editor, copyeditor, and proofreader at languageagent.com. Today we have Melissa Kirk from Words to Honey joining us. She's a nonfiction developmental editor, book coach, and content writer in the health and wellness and psychology space. Hi Melissa, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks
All right,
so much
good
for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very good to have you here. From the West Coast. And the funny thing is, I've never had anybody from California. Usually
Really?
people from all over the world, other states, other countries. It's a nice, somebody from the same time zone.
There's a lot of editors here, so
Yeah.
yeah. California.
Yeah, I love it. It's nice and sunny before it gets all rainy next week.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm in SoCal, Southern California.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're expecting rain today and tomorrow, so it works
we're
out.
gonna get our turn next week, almost a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a good time now. Well, it's nice and sunny.
Yep.
Okay, would you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do? Include some fun facts for those of you, for those of you out there who don't know what we do.
Right. Well, like you said, I'm a writer, editor, and book coach in the psychology, health, and wellness space. I've been doing that for about 17 years, and I just realized a couple weeks ago that I've been doing editing work for 20 years this year. So it's kind of frightening to me that that's true. But so I own my own business, Words to Honey, content services, and fun fact, in my spare time, I'm obsessed with plants. So I grow a lot of plants. It looks like a forest in my house. And I also grow vegetables and fruit and flowers outside my house. So it's just basically plants everywhere. So
that's great. You don't have to go grocery shopping. You know? Well, everything in your house.
Yeah, so like if we get quarantined, I'll just go out and eat a bunch of. Right now, all I've got is collard greens and lemons, so it's not that exciting.
It's all about the greens, even like green in your hair too.
Yeah, technically it's blue, but it'll
it just fades out. I know that is because I used to color my hair in rainbows. So.
Yeah. So another fun fact is I go to Burning Man a lot. That's why I tend to have weird coloring. So.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I finally get to talk to someone who actually goes there. Usually I just read about it.
You can talk to me if you want.
We'll revisit that topic. So
Tell me
about your experience. So tell me about your experience with traditional publishers and which publishers you've worked with. This is going to be fun. So.
Yeah. So I started out working I graduated with an English degree, and I worked at a bookstore, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was 24 or something. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. What am I? And then I look around me. I'm like, I like books. So I basically got into book publishing. My first job was at Chronicle Books in San Francisco, doing customer service, I was terrible at it, and I hated it because.
I feel you.
Yeah, but I liked the publishing, right? So I spent like maybe 6 months being a terrible customer service person in their call center, but then I started realizing I would really like to go into editorial. So I started doing informational interviews with people there that were with editors. And then I got an entry-level editorial assistant job at Josie Bass in San Francisco, which is now John Wiley and Sons, and I worked there for about 3 years.
Oh, awesome.
And I was lucky enough to have two really good mentors when I was there. So they really taught me a lot about how to be a good editor. And then I went from there to a company called New Harbinger Publications in Oakland, which is a psychology self-help publisher. And I spent 13 years working there, which is basically where I learned everything I know about how to edit and work with psychology wellness people. So, and then I have been running my own business for about 3 years.
Well, we got plenty of experience right there. So your niche pretty much chose you, not the other way around.
What? Say it again?
So your niche actually chose you, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Same here. It seems to be the trend.
Also,
Same here.
I needed a lot of psychology help, so it was perfect. When I got the job in New Harbinger, I thought I landed in heaven because it was nothing but learning about psychology and mental health and like learning good like meditation techniques. So it really helped me mentally too. All I did for a living was read psychology books. It's great. So yeah, I landed in the right place at the right time, I think.
It's funny how things work out like that.
I know. The universe was definitely looking out for me.
So anyway, what's the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing? I mean, it should be obvious, but a lot of people don't know about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny because from my perspective, traditional publishing is kind of a misnomer because the original publishing was self-publishing. People would make their own books and stuff. So it wasn't necessarily, so traditional publishing to me isn't really traditional, but that's what people call it. That's all right. See, I'm editing already. So in traditional, quote unquote, traditional publishing, the publisher acts as a gatekeeper. So they're the ones who are deciding what they want to publish, and you kind of have to go to them and kind of convince them to publish your book. And then they will provide all the professional services. So they're going to provide the editors and the design and the marketers and the proofreaders and all that stuff. So, and then they give you a portion of what they receive when they sell your book, depending on what the contract says. And then in self-publishing, that's when the author basically takes all the risks and spends all the money on professional services, and then figures out how to get the book distributed. So they might upload it to Ingram Spark or Amazon or one of the other companies, and they're spending all the money, and they're getting all the money that they get from the books. And then there's also a model called hybrid publishing, which used to be called vanity press. They used to be called vanity presses, but now there's another model where it's kind of a combination between traditional and self-publishing. Yes. So it's kind of like book packagers you pay them some money, but they'll in theory offer a lot of the support around like getting designers and doing the marketing and doing, PR and doing press releases. So it really depends on what your agreement is with them. And so that's a model that's becoming more popular now. And my only like caveat around that is just to be really careful that you know who you're dealing with, and that you have a contract that you understand what you're getting into, and that the publisher has a good reputation. So just do a lot of research if you're going to work with a hybrid publisher, but it's a perfectly fine model of publishing. So it's not it used to be really a stigma if you did that, but yes. That's not as true anymore. So yeah.
It's about doing your homework out there, asking around.
Right. Yep, that's the main thing.
Just like in anything else in life, really.
Yep.
And what do you have to take into consideration in each scenario? Just traditional and self-publishing? Yeah.
Well, like in terms of I get a lot of people who ask about, well, should I publish? Should I traditionally publish? Should I self-publish? And what I always say is it really depends on your goal for your book and how much energy and time you have and money you have to spend on it. So if you're like, if you really just, because if you self-publish, you're going to do everything. You're going to do the marketing, you're going to be hiring all the professionals, you're going to be obviously doing the writing, and then you're going to be spending all the money, and you really want to spend money well. You want to have a good product. So if you feel like that's going to be way too overwhelming for you and you don't think you can do it while you're just on your own, then you might consider traditional publishing. I mean, because they will tend to have bigger distribution for your book. They're going to be spending all the money on it, most of the money on it. So they're taking more of the risk, and you're just going to get less of the money from it. But that's not always the most important aspect of publishing. So you may not care about that. When I talk to authors about this, I just say, let's talk about your goals for the book and what you want to accomplish and what you want to put into it energetically and financially, and then we can decide what works best,
No one size fits all. It doesn't fit all. You know, one size does not fit all.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's like, for example, if one of your goals is to have a lot of professional, if you're really trying to build a professional expertise and like credibility, you may decide to go with a really well-respected psychology publisher because it gets you some of that credibility, and that's important for your goal. But if it's not your goal, then you don't need to worry about that. So I spend a lot of time working with people just on that. Like, let's see what you want to accomplish, and then what's the best model for doing that.
Yeah, it takes a while to decide. It's not always easy.
Yeah, right.
A cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
Wham, bam, there you go.
Yeah, that's why I have a job. That's why I have my business works.
Never go out of work.
Sometimes people just need a person to step back with them and look at things. Mm-hmm. You know, it can be overwhelming when you're a first timer, especially, to know what to do. So I help a lot of my clients with just, let's take a step back and be strategic. And seems like it works. I work with people both who traditionally publish and who self-published and who publish with hybrids. So it all seemed like it works so far.
There are plenty of choices. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like back in the day, the only thing was traditional. Got the internet levels the playing field.
Or photocopying a zine. Like,
oh yeah, that's right. Old school photocopying by hand.
I used to do that. That was funny. So yeah.
Sweet memories from last century.
Yeah, right.
We've come a long way.
Things have changed a lot, yeah.
So walk us through the general steps in each type of publishing. So from beginning to end, like the general thing. Yeah.
Well, so again, it's so varied. So like I work with pretty exclusively with nonfiction. If somebody wants to traditionally publish, we've established that, then what I normally recommend is that we create a proposal. You don't usually have to have an entire manuscript, so I'll work with them to create a proposal and some sample chapters, and then pitch the book before the manuscript is written, because a lot of nonfiction people want to have traditional publishers want to have some kind of feedback on like how the book is organized and how it's written. So you don't really have to write the whole manuscript first. So, but in self-publishing, obviously, you have to write the whole manuscript. So in that way, when I work with somebody, I work with the concept and the outline, and then I do developmental editing as they're writing, and then we sort of figure out, well, what are the next steps once we have a manuscript that's strong, and then we figure out, because then you need to hire professionals to do the design and the interior design and the marketing. So then how we work on how to get those people in, and the best strategy for that. Yeah.
That's a lot to take from most people, but hey, this is recording. You can always press play and rewind, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking old school terms here.
There's a lot to think about, but I think, and that's why because I've been doing this for a while, so I think I can offer like a good insight into, well, what do you want to, like I said before, what do you want to accomplish? What are your resources? Mm-hmm. And how do we get the best, product to meet your goals and your business goals and your readers' problems, like how to solve the problem the best way. So every project is so different. It's really fun.
It's even the same author, if they write different books, each book is completely different, totally different beast.
And then goals are different, and every project comes to me with it's a different personality. Like so it's never boring, which is cool. That's why I like it, because I get bored.
It's always variety.
Yeah, right.
It's not like you're stuck, doing data entry all day,
Yeah, which I have actually done, and that's terribly boring. So
they're done that.
So this is, there's a lot of, it's just so varied. It's pretty cool. What else?
Yeah, and since a lot of people out there don't know the correct terms, what's developmental editing and what's book coaching?
So yeah, developmental editing is working with the text and the concept a lot. So when I'm working with a manuscript and I'm editing and I'm looking at, first I start looking at the organization and the focus of the book, because in order for it to reach the audience and to effectively help them, it needs to have a really strong focus concept. We really need to know the audiences. We really need to know what their problems are and what they're looking for in terms of help. And so then I'll help the author with that, and then I'll work through the manuscript in terms of making sure the information's organized well, like the headings are correct, like just because the way that the book information is organized is really important to how the reader can integrate the information. So if it's just like a ton of words just plopped on the page with no organization, it's really hard for the reader to understand what you're trying to say. So when I'm developmental editing, it's a lot about making sure the information is presented in a way that it's going to be actually helpful and useful. And then the book coaching aspect is more of like a strategy for around, like we were just talking about, like whether you want to publish self-published or traditionally published or hybrid publish, or what kind of content is the best, what kind of marketing strategy do you want. So with coaching, it's much more like a larger overview of the strategy. Usually I'll do both with a client. I'll work on their manuscript, and then I will also offer just like phone calls where we talk about, okay, what do we want to happen next? Like, do we want to pitch a publisher? Do we want to figure out how to self-publish? And then what's the best way to do that? Yeah, so that part, so that's more like a therapy. Or consulting,
psychology.
Like, yeah.
A book therapist. There you go, not coach.
Yeah.
Book therapist.
I've actually called myself a book midwife before, because it's sort of like,
that's what I call myself too.
How do we birth this concept, and then in the best way? So, but yeah, so a lot of my clients, we work on both things.
So a lot of people need both actually at the same time, because it's multifaceted.
Right, because if you're like we were just talking about, if you don't know, well, should I publish? Should I traditionally publish? Should I self-publish? What should I do? That aspect for me is a coaching like issue. So I'll approach that as a coach. Well, what do you want to see happen? And then using my knowledge to help them understand the best path forward to get their goals met. It's cool. It's fun.
And let me see here. Okay, why are editors important? This might sound like a stupid question, but there are actually people who don't know or just don't care.
Yeah. So because I'm on a lot of groups, like on social media, like on Facebook and various places that are writers, a lot of first-time writers, and I'm in groups about self-publishing and about writing, so I do hear a lot of people saying, well, why do I need it? Can't I just self-edit? And so I'll start just by saying there's two different kinds of editors, which a lot of people don't really seem to understand. So what I do is developmental editing. So I'm really looking at like I said earlier, like the overview and the organization and the concept. And then there's a person who's a copy editor, which I am not. You are, okay. So I have a lot of respect for copy editors, because I will do that kind of work. Like, I'll fix stuff if I see it. Like, so the copy editors will look at, line by line, like grammar and syntax and punctuation and clarity of the language, which I do too, but I think copy editors who've been trained to be copy editors are just see things I don't see. So I always recommend that so I work with them, I always recommend that they get a copy editor as well, because that's just like an even deeper level of editing.
And this is a suggestion to line our pockets. I mean, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, right. So for me, the reason to use an editor is because especially in nonfiction, because a lot of the people who are writing nonfiction are professionals or want to establish credibility, or they're running a business. And if your book is badly edited or not edited, people can tell, right? So
Yep.
it's like if your book has a bad cover because you didn't bother to hire somebody who knows how to design a cover, people are going to know that, and it's going to kind of damage your credibility. Like I'll often just say, is it worth the risk of damaging your professional credibility by putting out something that's not good? Because then, you know, like, I mean, and a lot of people say, oh, it's so expensive, and I get that because I'm on a budget. I know that. So if somebody were to say, okay, I can only afford one kind of copy editor, I would suggest that they hire one form of editor. I would suggest they hire a copy editor, because I think a lot of copy editors also do developmental editing work, in the sense like working with clarity and, you know, querying and stuff. So if you can only afford one, get the copy editor. But yeah, it's important to create a good product. Otherwise, why are you spending all this energy on this book?
Right. And I see so much crap out there. I'm just going to use that.
No, I know. I mean, and it's, yeah, I think it's because I think it's good. Like we're in a time where anybody can publish anything, and they can do, and it's great. It's awesome. And it also means that people can publish all of just stuff that isn't good, and so
might as well text, you know, and just take a screenshot and just publish.
Yeah, I mean, I just would say that if you want to put all this energy into it, create a product that's actually going to be helpful to your reader and meet your goals and help you, because otherwise it can damage your credibility in your business. So it's up to you, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. Well, at least the people in the fiction space, nonfiction space, they're like more, they're more conscious about that. In fiction folks, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean,
don't even go there.
Yeah, you see, fiction, I've never edited fiction. I don't want, because I think it sounds really scary. like I don't know if I know how to do that, because it's much more, it seems to me like it would be much more subjective. Like,
yeah,
I don't like this character, and I feel like I have some objective places to come from with my clients about, well, here's what we know about how to create a sentence, or here's what we know about passive voice, like why it doesn't work in certain situations. Like I can say, this is not going to work. And fiction seems like it would be so much harder to do that.
Yeah, it's just the technique is so complicated, and
I know.
I don't even know if it's right or wrong. It's subjective, you know.
Like, right. So I think my niche is fine. I don't want to branch out into fiction.
Same here. I'm happy doing nonfiction. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah. I'll read fiction, but I don't want to edit it. It seems hard.
I'm very fiction. I'm very picky about the kind of fiction I read.
Right. But you know, when
commercial stuff.
Like, when you're reading it, you know when something's working and not working. So, and I guess that's how you edit. You would edit fiction, is you would just sort of be like, let your subjective self come out, and I don't know. So I'm happy. I'm happy where I am.
Right. Stick with the facts. Just keep it simple. You know?
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, what's that cop's name on the TV show? Agent Friday, or whatever his name was. You're too young to remember that.
I just look young, but you know, I have gray hairs. I just look I'm not young. You know?
The cop, the Friday or whatever. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I told you I could talk about this for hours.
I know, and this is what's fun about interviews. You can talk about Anna the Sun, you know. We're not all serious, you know.
No.
Like people get scared because editors, oh my gosh, grammar.
I know.
You know.
I know. That's actually a good point, because I see a lot of authors, especially first time ones, really saying like, oh my God, if I send to an editor, they're going to tell me I suck. And that's not how I work.
I don't work like that either.
Yeah, like we're on the same team. I want your book to be as good as possible, and I'm very gentle yet firm with my feedback. I'm kind of like this, you know. So don't be afraid, because I really want to help you have a great book. So yeah, and I won't bite your head off like, usually. So.
That's why we're coaches. We're teachers.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll teach
Yeah,
you.
right, exactly. I feel like I'm teaching people skills. So, and I want to keep, because writing a book is intense.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, yeah, right.
even the blog post is intense.
Yeah, all your emotions go into it. So I really respect people who are writing, and I try to be really helpful, kind, supportive. So don't be scared. That's my advice.
Halloween.
Right.
Okay. So who should write a self-help or self-development or how-to book, and why? I mean, this sounds obvious, but a lot of people there need some explanation or convincing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's this sense, and I think it's changing, is that you need to have a higher degree in psychology, and maybe psychologists might disagree with this, but I actually feel like everybody has something to share. I think mostly we all have something that we can share to help people. And so for me, self-help, self-improvement, it isn't really about what degree you have necessarily.
Yeah.
It depends on the book, but I mean, for me, it's like what you need to have is you need to have a clear idea of who you're trying to help, what you're trying to help them with, and how to I sort of a model to show them. Like you need to have an approach that's the book's going to outline. You can't just. I mean, I do work with a lot of people who write memoirs and use their story as a teaching tool, which I think is fine. But then I'm always encouraging them to also offer some techniques or some ways the reader can actually use the information in their own lives. But I don't necessarily think you need a higher degree unless it's something like for a medical condition. You kind of want to have a medical person on board, but you can also just get a co-author who has a degree. If you feel like it's going to be important that the book have somebody who's got a higher degree attached to the book, then you can get a co-author, you can get a person who vets the book who has that. So I don't think it's necessary to have that.
Yeah, which is good. And speaking of authorship, co-authorship, that's what I recommend to everybody.
Because
it saves a lot of money, time, energy, and money, and everything. So
you want the book to be, you want the book to have the facts correct, right? Obviously, but a lot of people who are on healing paths, it's not really about the degree; it's about their experiences. So I work with a lot of people like that who don't necessarily have a degree, but they have had this amazing journey around, finding a place of healing from certain things that have happened to them, and I help them figure out how to say that thing.
Yeah.
And if we do need more expertise, we can find somebody like that's. But I think basically to do a good book in this space, you just really need to have sort of a passion for helping other people with healing. That's I think the key thing. Like, have that, and then we can work it out.
Yeah, it's about the passion. It's not about, that's gonna be tons of money. That's real motivation.
No. Not a passion for money, because that's not gonna. Actually, I mean, books can help with building a business, but they're not gonna make you a ton of money. But that's part of the strategy. So
it's just one piece of puzzle.
Don't expect to make a ton of money on one self-help book. That's probably not going to happen unless you're, super famous and on Oprah or something.
Right.
It's happened.
So there are non-writers who want to share their expertise, message, and stories with the world, and a good number of them have successfully published their books. And how would you work with non-writers? People often ask me that question.
Well, so what do you mean by non-writers?
They're people who haven't done a lot of writing, but they want to write a book. Because I get a lot of questions about that.
Okay, because so people who aren't who haven't chosen writing as a vocation, so they haven't written a lot,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
they
people
want to.
just like, okay,
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like
Yeah.
writing, but I haven't done any writing, but I would really want to write a book. Because a lot of people,
Yeah.
like, I go to like Facebook
Yeah.
groups, and a lot of people say that.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I probably, if, because I wasn't sure what the definition was. I actually do work with a fair number of people who are, like under that definition would be not considered non-writers. Although once they start writing a book, they are writers, because that's what.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know what you mean. People who haven't done it in any sense, like professional sense, so they're not really trained. So maybe they feel a little bit less confident, or, and writing talent, it's not everybody is going to be good at that, and that's okay. So I do sometimes feel like I work as a writing coach a lot of the time. So for like example, yeah, like explaining like why passive voice isn't really a great way to write, like, so like, you know what I mean. So so I do a lot of that, and sometimes I do see writers who improve their writing while working with me, which is really awesome. One of the other things I also offer, and I think is a totally legitimate option if people have the money, is to hire a ghostwriter, or even hire like because I offer that as well, or somebody who, or hire like a writing coach. Like I can offer that, like somebody who's even going to go even deeper than like a developmental editor, like, and just really, just go super deep into the writing and act as a writing coach, and maybe also act as a little bit of a ghostwriter, sort of like that's a collaborator, it's like a co-author basically. So that's one option if people don't want to like start from scratch and then learn how to write well, because it's not always
time.
it's not always possible. So, and
Right.
not everybody has the skills for it. Like I'm terrible at math. I don't expect to go and I'm not gonna
with words, not numbers.
Like if somebody came to me and said, I need you to write me a math book, I'd be like, no, I don't know anything. But there are ways to get around that. If you really have something that you want to say to your audience, you can do it. There's also other ways to produce content. So like video is a way to do that, or more short form writing, like blogs or something. That's also one way to produce content. I think books are really important, like an important like part of a content strategy, but they're definitely not the only way to create content. So I also work with video and bloggers. So it's all part of the strategy, but there's always a way.
Yeah, not just one thing. You have to do different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a well-rounded approach. So
yeah, it's the message is, as long as the message is is useful and powerful, there's always a way to get the message out there. Especially these days, there's so many ways.
Right. There's the University of Google.
Yeah, like there's right.
That's how actually I learned to craft.
Yeah, you do a course. Yeah. Do a course, you can do, there's so many ways to get your information out there.
And in general, how do you help authors with the structure, organization, content, and theme of their books? I mean, kind of touch on that earlier, but now it's like we're getting gritty.
Well, and that's one of the things that I find is often actually the core problem with a lot of things that I work with in the beginning is that the outline is a little bit too, it's not focused enough. So that's always where I start with authors, because if you don't have a good outline and your concept is too, like if it's too broad, if it's not really making a promise, it's going to be really hard to write a good book, because you just don't know what to write or where to start. So I always work with people on their outline first, and their concept first, and their audience and their outline to make sure that we have it right. Because if you use an outline well, then it's really easy to write the book because you already have the skeleton. All you have to do is fill in the blanks. So it's, so and a lot of people that I work with, not a lot. Some of them seem to want to resist that, and that's where I go. I'm the book mom. Like, you have to do what I say. This is how it works. Okay.
Yeah, because I was liking it to parenting. Editing is a lot of parenting.
And I've never been a parent, so I don't know. But I do, like if your kid wants to touch the hot stove, you might say, hey, maybe not a good idea, right? So, yeah. So because
kids sometimes don't listen,
Right. I know. Well, that's another thing, yeah. Right. Because I'm working for myself, when I used to work for a publisher, I would be much more about, I had more authority to say, no, you cannot do that.
So now company.
Right. And now I'm working for the authors themselves. So now my thing is, I will say something twice. I will make a recommendation twice. And if the author doesn't want to follow my recommendation, I will never mention it again, because it's not it's your book. You do what you want. You hired me. If you don't want to listen to what I say, that's fine. That's fine. Yes. But so when I work with authors, I really try to talk to them about what the goal is, who their audience is, what they're really wanting to accomplish, so then we can create an outline, and then I start working with them on the actual chapters and writing the book itself.
Yeah, for me, this is hard. The big picture stuff is a line editor, copy editor, and proofreader is like, I'm totally lost. The big picture doesn't make sense.
In terms of lost, in terms of what? The
structure. I don't even know how to set up a structure, framework, whatnot.
Yeah. Well,
that's hard.
I always, in fact, I'm writing a book about it. I always kind of talk about it like when you're building a house, and you sort of have to have the foundation first. Like, if you don't have a foundation, your house is not going to stand up. Right. So the foundation for me is just like the basic underlying concepts. So like it's like if you're teaching a class, you have to start with, if you're teaching a class on, I don't know, how to plant plant tomatoes, you have to start with, okay, here's the kind of soil we like, and here's what soil tomatoes need. You have to start from the beginning, like the concept they need to understand first, and then you build on that concept as you go. So it's sort of how I feel like it's developing a curriculum almost. Like, what do they need to know before they can understand the concepts, like the more complex concepts. Like if you're talking about a psychology idea, and it's say it's a cognitive behavioral approach, you have to start by explaining what cognitive means and what cognitive behavioral means, and then how that works in dealing with this particular problem. And then you start giving them the exercises and the practical stuff, because if they don't know what cognitive behavioral means, it's not going to be helpful to them to use that term, so that's how I look at it.
It's a nice way to use psychology terms.
Like step. It's like a ladder. You can't get up a ladder if there's no bottom rung. Like, you have to step. Yeah. I have a lot of metaphors to use for explaining this. I just mix all of my metaphors up. It's like a big metaphor jumble. Right. It can be challenging, but it's fun too. I've been doing this for long enough that I can usually get it across to people eventually.
Yeah. That's a creative aspect of it. It's not just technical. I mean, for sure. Your type of editing, because it uses like both left brain and right brain.
Yeah. And it's also psychological, because you're and that's the coaching aspect, like, because the author has their own stuff they're going through, like maybe they have imposter syndrome, or maybe they think they're an amazing writer, but you have to say, well, here are some issues. I can help you with you have to kind of figure out how to talk to them in a way that they will hear you without, and have a strong working relationship. So it's just kind of there's a lot of different facets, just makes it really interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
Very
like,
different hats, you know?
yeah. You know, don't piss the author off, because then they're not gonna hear you.
Oh
when
yeah, that's
you
a
know,
fine
but then you
line.
also, you know, yeah. So it's funny. It's like you're working with their baby. Like it's, you know, it's, they're really committed to this project. So I really try to have a sense of collaboration with them, you know, instead of ordering them around.
Right. It's hard to balance sometimes. You want to be
Yeah.
a boss, sometimes you want to be a supporter.
I've had things happen where clearly I just said something that made somebody mad, and I didn't realize that was going to be a trigger for them. So I mean, not often, but every once in a while, somebody kind of goes,
Yeah.
"Oh no, I can't believe you said that," and I'm like, "Oh no, I accidentally stepped on a landmine. I didn't realize it was there."
Occupational hazards.
Yeah. Well, it's lucky that I work with psychology books.
Yeah. So you know what to say, what to do.
Yeah.
So how would you advise people who feel they have a book in them, but they feel they don't have what it takes to write a book? You know, imposter syndrome, feeling, you know, not good enough,
Yeah.
you know, being too busy. Oh, I'm too busy to do this. I want to do
Yeah.
this. I don't have time.
Yeah. Well, again, ghostwriting is always an option. And you know what I think about when somebody says they're too busy is that what they're really saying is, this isn't a priority for me. And it's okay. It doesn't have to be, right? You don't have to have your priority be to write a book. If you really want to write a book, you're going to have to reprioritize things in your life. And one of them might be you can't do everything. That's okay. Or you can hire somebody to ghostwrite it, or to be a book coach or a co-author, where you don't have to do as much of the work. So there's always, like I said earlier, there's always a way to do it, but everybody has to prioritize what's important to them. So if you're a business person and a book would really help with that, and you say you're too busy, I think you just need to reprioritize and see, like, how important is it really for you? Because maybe it isn't, and that's okay. And like I said, there's other ways to get your message out, video and coursework.
Oh, it's repurposed later.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people.
Yeah, right. Like, and I would just say, figure out what your priority is in terms of your goal for your business, and figure out the best way to reach that goal. And if it might be might be something besides the book. But if you really want a book and you really don't feel like you have time for a book, then you can hire a ghostwriter. I do that.
You know, options out there.
Yep.
So what would you say to people who have like imposter syndrome? Like, oh, I'm not good enough to do. I want to do this, but you know, I feel, you know, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
There are better writers out there, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, because I've felt that myself.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, I think a lot of us do, and I don't so much anymore. But when I first started my business, I was just like, and I'd still been doing this for 17 years, and I was still having imposter syndrome. So what's that about? I don't know. But I mean, I would just say that the key to understanding, like, how do I put this? Because I work with a lot of freelancers also, because that comes up a lot for freelancers. And what I always say is that it's never about being the best, the total best. All you have to do is be good enough to reach the goal you have. Like, you don't have to be the best writer. All you have to do is be able to understand how to communicate the concepts. And that's why you hire somebody like me, and I can help you with that. But it doesn't have to be the best. And it doesn't matter if there's other books out there on the topic, because that's part of what I help people with, is figuring out, so how do we place the book in the context, you know, in the marketplace in the most effective way. So I think imposter syndrome is a lot about, oh my God, I have to be perfect. It's like perfectionism. But the truth is that you actually don't have to be perfect at all. You just have to be enough to reach the people that you're trying to reach. And you have to have the people around you who can support you in that work. So So you don't have to be.
Yeah, everybody's different, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And like the good enough, good enough writer, good enough. Like if you really look at all the books in the world, most books in this space aren't like gonna be Pulitzer Prize winners or whatever.
Right.
It's okay. That's not. You don't have to be that. Like you can be you. You know.
Yeah, that's the beauty of nonfiction. You know, it can be.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be self-conscious.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like because that's like right. Writing fiction to me. I mean, I've tried it, and it's just I don't even know how people do that. Like really good fiction writers. I don't get it. but nonfiction is you don't have to be some brilliant mind. You just need to have passion, and you need to understand what the problem is, what the readers want, what they're challenged with, and how to help them.
Yeah, a lot of psychology and marketing. Even marketing is based on psychology. So.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not even, and that's actually like it's not even. The writing isn't the most important part of writing a book.
Yeah, exactly. It's mindset.
It's the focusing it and the framing of the concept that is really what sells books. You know, I mean, there's terribly written books out there that sell crazy things. So,
yeah, we can write a book, like a self-help book on how to write. You know?
Oh, there are books out like that. I mean, there's a lot of books out there like that.
From a psychologist.
I'm actually yeah. No, there are. I'm actually writing. I'm going to be writing some ebooks just on my model. So it's funny to be on both sides of the coin,
right?
Because now I have to work with my own stuff. Like, oh, wait a minute, who's my audience? Right? It's so funny.
Mm-hmm. It's hard.
Well, I'm going to hire editors.
Yeah, we're too close to the material. It's hard to see.
I know, exactly.
But editors need editors, you know?
Yeah, right. Everybody needs an editor, even editors. We're
like the seeing eye dogs in the literary world.
Yeah. And then I saw some news story where there was a seeing eye dog, and the seeing eye dog lost its sight. And so the owner got the seeing eye dog a seeing eye dog. Like that's like the perfect, so perfect. That's like the perfect metaphor for editors.
Write about that next time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. I just came up with that. You know, during our conversation.
No, I really am writing down.
Cool. I can remember easily because I have a dog here. So.
Oh.
My little assistant.
Oh. Where is he?
He's like a chug, a chihuahua pug.
Oh.
I think he's a little bit.
Aw, how cute. So yeah, that's the thing about
my website. So along with my cat. So.
Oh. That's the great thing about working at home. You just get to have your little office assistants around. Right. My cats are somewhere. I don't know where they went. Yeah. So let's see. What else?
Okay. Here. If you were an acquisitions editor, what topics, approaches, or styles would grab your attention? Would you consider quality material?
Well, so I was an acquisitions editor for about 13 years at New Harbinger. So I know exactly. I know exactly what material grabs me. And so what I really liked the best was, that's a lot of proposals. And what I really liked the best was when a good concept is communicated clearly and the author has a good understanding of marketing and a good understanding of their target audience. That always made me sit up and pay attention because that's really what's going to sell the book, is having a sense of how to reach people in a way that they're going to be excited about your ideas. So when I was doing that work, that I would look for that stuff. And quality material would be a good, solid underlying concept, where the writer can communicate important ideas succinctly. So like in a book proposal, you basically have to have it be an elevator pitch. It has to have that pitch part. Like you have to be able to communicate what your book is about in like what 20 seconds or something like that, right? Like so when the writer understands how to communicate those ideas really succinctly, they understand who their audience is, like I said, and they understand what the problem is they're trying to solve. And then they can really communicate that in like 3 sentences. That's where I would sit up and take notice of a proposal, because it meant like that's what the book is. That's what's going to make it a successful book.
So you're going to have your elevator speech even for a book.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, that's it, because it's like you said, it's about marketing. And so if you don't understand it, and I find this happens a lot, so I work with people in this, if you don't understand what the goal of the book is and who it's reaching, who it's going to help, then you're not going to be able to write a very effective book, because you're just going to kind of go off on tangents all the time, and then nobody's going to be helped. So if you're going to put the energy into writing this kind of book, you really need to think about that. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? What is their pain point? Like, what do you like your author or your reader? Like, really get to a place where you understand that stuff, and then it's going to be so much easier to write a good book that's effective.
So how do you factor in the commercial value of a book, knowing all the marketing and stuff? How to balance those things,
Yeah, I mean, right. So that's a big challenge. I mean, in any form of publishing, that's the hugest challenge. Is that so in terms of acquisitions editors, so when we would, and agents as well, when we assess a book proposal, we'll often look at competing books, what their sales have been, what the author offers in terms of a author platform. Like, are they already reaching their target audience? Like, that's why a lot of publishers really want an author who's already working on their platform, because then you know already whether or not the author is hitting that balance between commercial viability and what was the other word you used? Emotional connection. So if the author's already got people who are interested in what they're writing about, then that's a really good sign that they're doing that well. They're balancing that pretty well, because we want people who are engaged and are interested in what the author is saying, and because then there's an audience for the book already there. Like, you don't have to build it after the book comes out. But yeah, it's not a science. It's like total guesswork. It's just so.
Yeah, that's what's more about marketing,
Yeah. Well,
it's always changing. You have to figure out different things.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like any product. I mean, so, because that's what I would do a lot is, so I would get the proposal, and then I would read it, and then I would create a pitch to my acquisitions committee, and then I had to really look at, like, how do I was selling the book to the acquisitions people, right? So like 12 people in my company who were going to listen to me explain why we should buy this book. So I would look a lot at what's out there, what the competing books are, what the sales are like how big the audience is, what kind of engagement the audience already has, like what kind of organizations are they part of, like what kind of online groups are they a part of, or what kind of conferences happen, just like to make sure there's enough people talking about it that they would want to buy a book on it. And then looking at the author's interactions with their audience, because if they're already interacting with them, you can sort of tell, like, are people excited about them? Or are they kind of ignoring them? Like, what? And then
check the temperature.
But basically, yeah, exactly. So, but there were books where people, I pitched them, and the acquisitions people were like, nope, I don't want that. And then the author got it published somewhere else, and it's done fabulously. So it's just a matter of, I don't know. There's not a formula that's 100%,
It's so random,
Yeah, it depends on, it's also like, in terms of acquisitions people, like agents or acquisitions editors, it's also just really personal, because somebody might just be like, I don't like this book. And but they don't really have to say why. Like, they just can say, it's just, I'm not feeling it. And then, or like in acquisitions committees, you know, and I would pitch a book, somebody would just say, oh, I don't like that you used that word. And it's like, well, okay, but what about the rest of the words, you know? But so somebody just didn't fly for them, and it was just totally personal. So it's just, that's one thing I would say about people who are sending or pitching books, is that don't take it personally, because it's almost never personal.
Personal preference, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, or like that day somebody saw an article that said, I don't know, something, and they took it and decided your book was no good. It's just, keep trying. It's usually not you. It's usually just something random, you know.
That should be encouraging. I mean, in a good way.
Yeah, it is encouraging, because it can take, I mean, I've had clients get contracts after sending out 10 pitches. I've had them get contracts from sending out one. It's just a numbers game, I think, and luck, you know. And then, you know, you want to do the proposal right. You want to obviously have a good concept, but a lot of it is just sort of luck,
right,
and persistence, like most things, right? So
much better at lottery.
yeah, because you actually have control over your output in a book proposal. Lottery,
you can always look for somebody else, another publisher, or you can even
exactly. There's always somebody. Yeah.
So, do agents and readers look for the same things? You know, in comparison with
yeah, essentially, yeah. Because I think, agents and editors are in theory, we know what works in a book in our genre. So, and what works is a book that appeals to the reader, to the right reader. So yeah, hopefully we're all on the same page, so to speak, about what makes a good book. And so the audience, the editor and the agent are going to be looking for the same thing as the reader, but they're going to be looking at it maybe a little bit more in a deeper level, because not every, you know, when we're readers, we aren't necessarily, we know something when something looks like jumps out at us, and we go, oh, that's so awesome looking, but we don't often know why. So editors and agents have studied why more. So it's but typically they are looking for the same thing. They're looking for a book that's going to be compelling, that solves a problem that's real, that people know they have, because people need to go out and look for books there, you know. So and it has to just be a compelling focus and really speak to the audience.
Yeah, pretty basic for you guys.
Yeah. Well, basic and also super complicated, because it's like everything, psychology and marketing and sales and
it's a juggling act.
Yeah.
So what are the pitfalls in writing a self-help or self-development book? What do you think are potential or actual problems?
In what sense? What kind of, clarify the question.
Topics, you know.
Mm-hmm. So like, what are the potential or actual problems with
creating, you know, self-help, the kind of topics that people talk about?
Well, I think any topic is fair game. The thing I see the most often is that the author is trying to be too general. Like they're saying, oh, I have a book on being, and this is the example I use all the time. My book is going to help people be happier, and everybody wants to be happier. Therefore, this book is going to appeal to everybody on the planet. And I'm just like, this is where I go, no, that's not true. So I think one of the main problems is having this belief that the broader the topic is, the more people it's going to reach. But that's the actual opposite is true. So, so I often help people with just focusing the book and like really digging down to what the actual problem is. So if somebody's creating a book idea, I would really suggest to go deeper than what you think you need to, it's what, like if it's a book about how to be happy, look at what model are you actually teaching? Is it what actual techniques are you using? What does happiness mean to the reader? Like, does it mean that they're going to be physically healthier? Does it mean they're going to have less anxiety? Like, what does that even mean? And it really
Can't be vague. Yeah.
like define your terms before you. That's the first thing, and then just really get down to the real nitty gritty about who is struggling, why are they struggling, who are they? Like, do they live in New York City? People resist that part, but it's really important to understand, truly get who your audience is before you can really write effectively to them.
A lot of research first.
Yeah, so many things. Yes. Do a lot of, and that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people are scared to do research because they're like, oh God, what if there's a book out there that's exactly the same as mine? And it's really unlikely that that's going to be true. And also,
yeah, because every person is different experiences.
Yeah, right. And also, acquisitions editor is actually, it's good if your book has competing books, and it's good if they sell well, because that means that people are already buying on the topic. So it's actually not good if there's no other book on it, because we think, well, how are we supposed to know if it's going to sell then? So yeah, do a lot of research. Don't be afraid of finding out there's other books on the topic, because that'll help you distinguish like how to like establish your own unique place in the market. So, but we want books that are already out there on the topic, because that'll help us understand how to approach those people. So it's definitely not the kiss of death if you find other books like yours.
So it can never be oversaturated or, overrated. There's always a way to make it unique.
Yeah, there's definitely places where, because like at my publishing company, because we, by the time I was working there, it had been operating for 30 or 40 years. So there's definitely times when we realized, okay, we've done everything on depression we could possibly think of, and we have to look for other topics. So there's times when maybe there's like really common issues where it's a little bit harder to find your niche in that, like your little the gap that needs to be filled in. I don't think it's impossible, but it can be more challenging. But generally speaking, self-help books do sell really pretty decently, and there's always going to be an audience for it. So I think the key is just to really find that little hole that your book fills that's not being served, effectively yet in the marketplace. And the only thing about saturation is that certain approaches are going to be, there's going to be more examples of them. Like meditation is a little bit harder to find a unique place to put that, but you could find one. It just takes more research and some creative thinking about it,
Right.
Yeah.
So how would you advise authors to balance optimism and realism when they're writing their book? I mean, the message that they're putting forth out there.
Well, you mean in terms of like the success of the book, or?
Because self-help is about, the think positive kind of thing. How do you, how do you balance that with realism, Because you don't want to be pessimistic and you don't want to be Pollyannish either.
Yeah, that's definitely, well, and it kind of depends, because sometimes it's okay to be Pollyannish. Like if that's what your audience wants and you can really help them. Like I know that you in your question, you had talked about the what do you call it? Course in Miracles, or the manifesting thing, where
it's like the new age BS thing. I mean, like people want to get good stuff. I want to get a nice car, a hot body, Right. It's not me, like solipsistic thinking,
Yeah. So I hear you, because that's not my personal preference for self-help books either.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on my side right there.
I mean, but when my approach with my clients is, I actually am not telling them, if I'm not going to tell them what to write. Like if they're going to write a book about the law of attraction, I'm fine with that. But I want to help them do it the best way possible. So I'll use all the techniques I know to get them to get the concept right, to make sure it's filling a need, and that. So I don't necessarily have to believe in the concepts in the book in order to help somebody. And because some people find a lot of comfort in that, and like it's, as long as it's not going to actually damage somebody, like I'm totally happy to help get the book out, but if it's like selling snake oil literally or something, or,
exactly.
then I'll just I draw the line at inaccurate information, like weird propaganda that has no support scientifically. Like I don't do that stuff. But if you want to do a book on manifesting, that's fine. I mean, people, and like one of the things I like to read is stuff by Buddhist teachers about just like like Pema Chodron, or like where they just put their, I find that super comforting.
Right.
Sometimes I'll read that, but everybody has their own taste. So I'm perfectly fine helping somebody with something that maybe is a little bit more on the light side for me, but
do you have your limits?
Yeah, if other people are going to find it helpful, that's totally cool. As long as it doesn't cause any harm, I'm not going to judge somebody for that. But in terms of the optimism versus pessimism, I mean, I really try to be really honest with people and also really kind with them, like my authors. So, like, for example, most books aren't going to be on the New York Times bestseller list. Like, that's just true. Like, it's just, so I'm going to say, if they've told me that that's one of their goals, I'm not going to laugh at them, but I'm going to say, well, here's what needs to happen for that to happen. And I'm totally happy to help, but I cannot guarantee that that's going to happen. So, and here are the hurdles I see. So, I try to be kind, but also really honest. And, and there are other goals that are important. You don't need to necessarily be on the New York Times bestseller list to be successful.
Right. So that's why I thought I would ask you that question, because we're doing like self-help and like, transformational books. I feel like there's a lot of moral duty, and there's like moral duty involved, because we don't want to steer people in the wrong direction,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, that's why I definitely stop at things that are going to cause, that I believe are going to cause harm. I will not participate, or I'll try to steer the person in a different way. But
we'll find someone else, and you would just advise, oh, maybe I'm not right for this. Maybe you can.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, but like, if in general, I don't have a problem with stuff that maybe is a little bit kind of on the light, airy, new agey side, because I don't necessarily think it hurts people, and it can actually be comforting. But yeah, like stuff like, I think you asked me this question. I have actually refused to work on books that I didn't agree with their premise. Like, for example, one where it was one of those guys who does those seduction guys.
Oh no, PUA.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. One of those guys, their entire job is teaching guys how to seduce women, and it was hilarious because I'm like, he just found me, and he was like some famous, I can't remember, he was famous like in that community, and he found me on one of the sites I'm on, and I looked him up, and I'm like, oh no.
Mystery, right?
No, it wasn't quite that famous, but it was somewhere in that realm. And I was just like, and probably I could have gotten a lot of money from that, but I couldn't. I just had to say, you know what? I'm not comfortable helping you with this book, because I don't believe in manipulating women to get them to stick with you. So I couldn't do it. So it happened.
So I was going to ask you a question, like, what was the most interesting project?
I know.
You answered my question ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't work on that one. I mean, but your question towards ethics, I do definitely have my own ethical compass where I don't cause damage. And like, I had one book where I'd actually had a contract with him. It was at the company I used to work for, and he had this whole thing where he believed that any type of anger was toxic. You couldn't express anger in any form whatsoever. And I personally find that baloney. And like, so I tried to argue with him about it, like pointing out all these things that said anger is actually not, it's not the anger that's the problem, it's how you express the anger. And he wouldn't listen to me, so I canceled the contract.
Yeah,
I just was like, no,
I just ignore the negative, focus only on the
I can't put a book out there that tells somebody that a normal human emotion is bad. Like, I just can't do it. So
yeah, that's the kind of books I've seen like over the years. I mean, like, man, this is harmful.
yeah,
it's not right.
I know.
Yeah, people
Well,
eat book.
Like those seduction books, like, because I love books, right? And I actually bought a couple of those seduction books just to see what they were saying.
I actually read one, yeah.
No, and I am not kidding. It's in my entire life of books, that is the first time that I've ever thrown a book across a room. Like, I never threw a book, so I threw it in the trash. I never do that, like I couldn't even in good conscience let it go to Goodwill or something. I just threw it in the trash.
No way.
I mean, and I don't like censorship, but I could not be a part of that. So, not gonna do it.
Cringe.
Yeah, I can't be part of that. Yeah.
It's funny because one of my friends, I mean, he used to be big into that stuff. So
yeah, and like I don't have a problem with men feeling confident and approaching women or talking to women. It was more just like the stuff about like the manipulative negging and stuff.
Yes.
Where you get somebody to feel bad about themselves, then you can seduce them. So it's like, no, I'm not going to be part of that. Nope. Confidence building is one thing, but manipulation is another.
Like narcissism and psychopathy.
Exactly.
I mean, manipulation techniques,
I was trying to read it because I wanted to see like what guys, like how they would be. I wanted to see them use it on me. Like I wanted to get the secrets.
Right.
And I couldn't even read it. I was just like, it made me so angry.
There have been like a few women or like female PUAs.
Oh wow. Huh.
How to pick up guys,
Oh. I guess like, as long as it's not manipulative and
right.
undermining, like I don't know. I don't care. Like seduction techniques are fine, but don't be manipulative and narcissistic about it and psychopath.
Right.
Like, don't do that. You can be nice about it. You can respect autonomy without. I don't see what the problem is. So.
Were there any other interesting topics that you work with, other than this POA stuff,
Oh yeah, well, I mean, everything's really interesting. Like, just I don't know. Everybody has, and so my clients tend to be. There's some of them are psychology people, but a lot of them are people who've had their own story. Like, so one of my authors is a medical doctor who had cancer and then used meditation techniques to work through that stressful time, right? And then another author is a person who had a lot of like childhood abuse and childhood trauma, and then became a therapist. And the book is about her working through that stuff in her own life. So it's like really interesting, like the stories people tell about just how they heal themselves, and then they use that to help heal others. I think those books are really interesting. I mean, I learn a lot, right?
Oh yeah, that's why we get.
I'm incredibly sane now, but I don't know, the tech, like all of the books tend to, it's always about figuring out how to get through painful or challenging situations, whether it's health thing or a mental health thing or a divorce, or like right now I'm helping a client who's a relationship coach. So like how couples can be more can actually use conflict in a way that brings them closer together instead of disconnects them. So it's all really interesting stuff, you know.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even like, but yeah, it's really cool. Like books about how to function as a dyslexic person and how to find the actual power in that. Like it's just so interesting. So yeah, I'm never bored. That's for sure.
Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah,
Our fingers.
yeah.
Do a lot of typing.
The whole thing I always sort of joke about is like after 17 years of reading psychology books, like how I probably could basically be a psychologist at this point, you know, like not that I would want to be, but that sounds really challenging.
Yeah. So share with us the general do's and don'ts of writing self-help or self-development books. Well, of course, ethics, we need to, factor them in, just the big picture, I would say.
Say that last part again.
The do's and
The
don'ts
do's and
of
don'ts.
writing self-help or
Yeah,
self-development books.
I had written it down. Let me see. So the do's. So I think I work a lot with people in terms of the writing aspect. So you know, like write to your reader, not to your thesis advisor. Write in the language that your reader is going to want to read it in, because, and especially because I work with a lot of people who are academically trained and they're trained to write in like this sort of passive voice, and so you really want to write to your actual reader, not to your colleagues or your peers. Like what are they how are they gonna get the writing or your message, right? So write to them, write to the reader using you, write in active voice, don't write in passive voice. You know? And this comes up a lot too, like do be yourself. Like you don't have to be other people. You can tell your own story. You can write in the way that you write, you know, as long as you're reaching the reader. But part of the great thing about writing books is you do get to be yourself. So don't be afraid to like be your wacky self, because you're looking for the audience who wants what you're offering. Not, you don't have to pretend to be someone you're not, you know. That's and at the end of the day, it just makes it a lot easier to live life. You're not worrying about other people not liking you or something. So do be really okay with being yourself. Don't, support all your, this is a big thing, support all your claims that you make. You need to support them. Don't just claim stuff that's not true.
Stuff, yep.
Don't do that, because it completely damages your credibility if you claim that something is true that isn't true, or you make it up because you think it should be true. So always research what you're claiming.
Yeah.
And if possible, get a citation for it, because you really want to. The part of the thing about these kinds of books is it's really easy to just like we've talked about, like write about just kind of fluffy stuff that there isn't really any science behind, and so if you want to be respected in your field, you need to have credibility. So you want to make sure you're claiming things that are at least, even if it's soft science, you can still say, oh, here's what we think happens, you know. Yep. So yeah, do that. Oh, here's my thing. If you're self-publishing, always hire professionals to work with in editing, design. Don't design your own book unless you're a designer.
Preach it, sister.
Yeah. I mean, just don't do it. It's designers know a lot more about design than most of us. Have a very specific promise and really understand your target audience, which I've talked about already. Make sure every word you write is helping the book reach the goal that you're trying to reach. Don't go off on tangents that don't have anything to do with anything. This is why I encourage people to use an outline, because it's harder to go off on just like random tangents. Don't take it personally if you are pitching books to agents or editors and you're getting rejections. Don't take it personally. don't take it personally if somebody puts a negative or a not 5-star review up on Amazon. Like, it's just, once you put your art out there, you don't know how it's going to land, and that's not your problem anymore. Like, don't worry. It's just, you'll find a way if you're creative and innovative about it, but don't take it personally, because it's really easy to just go down that like the rabbit hole of just like, oh, I suck. Oh, and then don't listen to advice from your uncle's wife's sister's doctor
yes.
about publishing. Or only listen to experts, because everybody has an opinion, and you don't know. Like, just don't come to your professional person you've hired and say, well, my uncle says that this is actually how it should be designed. Like, we hate that. Okay.
Unless it's a designer, you know.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yes, yeah. If it's a designer, but like if it's like your vet or something, don't come to me and say, well, my vet says that passive voice is okay. I'm going to say, no, that's not true. I'm a professional. Okay. Because the thing about when you're doing these, especially if you're self-publishing, everybody's going to have an opinion, but you really want to clear the air. Like, you don't want to have all the opinions. You don't want to give them all the same weight, you know, because you want to listen to people who
consider a source. Yeah.
They're professionals. So yeah, just, you know, smile and nod, but don't take it all as gospel, you know, unless that person has experience, you know.
Yeah. So how do you spark creativity in writing?
Well, if I knew that, I would have my book finished already, that I'm writing. So I think that for me, because this kind of book, I think, so my authors, typically, my clients come to me, they don't really have a problem with sparking creativity. The problem is in disciplining the creativity they already have.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like they're creative, but they need to be more disciplined about it, or they, you know, so that's kind of more of the issue that I come up with. And then, because I don't really, in my book I'm writing, like I don't know, I'm still struggling with that. So.
Even professionals get stuck. We heard it first.
Oh, yeah, well, and procrastination is definitely a thing.
Right.
I fully understand authors who struggle with that, because I know I've been writing a book for like over a year, and I think I've gotten to the introduction. Like,
so you're just like the outlines and the ideas, the whole thing. Yeah.
I mean, part of it is that I'm working on my business, but I really do want to write this book. Actually, I have 2 books. And
I have 2 books.
Yeah. One of them's actually about my business, and that's actually been easier for me to work on, because I can use my business building day to work on it. But the one that's for like me personally is just a lot harder to make myself have time. Like you were saying about being too busy.
Yeah. I
need to prioritize that and make time for it, and I'm just not doing it. So if anybody has any advice.
That's why it's always good to hire someone to make
I need a book coach.
We all need people who can help us.
Yeah.
You do it alone.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So what do you think the topics that should be discussed or published more often? I mean, just personal opinion.
Well, I really like, let me see. So, because you sent that in your list of questions, and one of the things that I would love to see more of is books for like modern women about how to, because things are changing a lot in terms of gender dynamics. So like, I personally have chosen not to have children, and I don't really want to get married. So, and I'm not even dating at the moment. So like, it would be great to have like more resources for people who are, I'm middle-aged, so I've gotten some stuff worked out, but like for younger women who maybe don't want to be in that same sort of role that you always were expected to be in about, oh, I want kids and I want to be married. Now that we don't really have to have that as much, I would love to see more resources about how do we develop a life outside of the expectations of relationship and family, because I think a lot of people are making different choices now, and they should have, and men too, like how do I become a man in this new kind of shifting of gender norms, and take the positive masculinity and leave some of the other stuff.
Yeah, no PUA.
Like how do you develop a life now that we've all gotten a little bit more, like, not everybody, but generally speaking, as a culture, we have some more choices we can make now. So how do young people build lives of fulfillment and service and internal strength and all that stuff about now that we have all these other, and we're living longer, like life is challenging. Like let's get some good resources out there.
Always, that's why it has always been popular. It never goes out of style. It's not a fad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just know how to do it right.
Well, we're all just like stumbling around. Like,
So that said, I'm like stumbling over words now. How do you balance commercial potential with sharing a message or a story that truly matters?
So what? Balance commercial. What was this?
Potential.
Oh yeah.
But sharing a message or a story that truly matters. Something that's really inspiring. Yeah.
I think, but like I said earlier, I think that every story is important on some level. I think like we all have something to teach people. And I think if one is innovative and explores possibilities, I think most stories are commercially viable on some level. Maybe, realistically, maybe you're not going to be the next Lifetime movie, but you never know. People write these books and they get discovered, and then the next thing you know, they're on Lifetime channel for women or whatever. Like weirder things happen. But so I think it's all possible. I just think that I think something that happens is when we try to mold a story into what we think is expected of us. Like, like how the 4 agreements, remember?
Yeah, yes.
The 4 agreements?
Yes.
And that's super, got a little bit light, but really useful and super popular. And so I've seen a lot of people trying to kind of repeat that model. Like, now I'm going to have the 5 questions. Whatever. I just feel like it's like squishing your model into another person's model. Like that's just, I would say maybe look for unique ways to present the information, not so much like repeating what other people have done. I think that's how you truly innovate. And but I know that I understand that a lot of people are wanting to make money from these books, and
I just want acceptance. We're social animals.
Yeah, but it's like I tell my authors all the time that a book is only part of that plan. For if you're looking for an income stream, the book is only part of that. So it's very unlikely that you're going to make a crap ton of money from one book if nobody knows who you are. It's just, but not that it can't happen,
right?
But just but so I would say, be yourself and be innovative and truly help the reader, and then look at the strategy for how to use that to kind of build up your business, or to get more clients, or to bring in income for yourself, but be, let the passion out. I think that's the key.
Yes. Keep it real.
Yeah, right, exactly. Keep it real, be yourself. That's why I think it can be helpful to hire somebody to look at it, like step back with you and look at it, yeah.
So anything else you want to share? I want people to know, just feel free to do so, like famous last words.
Yeah, well, Well, is it okay if I mention my website?
Yeah, of course. I was going to ask you that. So,
Okay.
of course.
So I guess in terms of, I think I already said this, but just in terms of like, if you do feel like you have a book in you, then you do. Like there's always, like I said, there's always a way to get your message out, whether it's a book or other content. So yeah, if you want to do this, then you can do it. You can do it. I have faith in you. Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So my business is called Words to Honey Content Services, and my website is wordstohoney.com. So no spaces, no letters, just wordstohoney.com. And feel free to shoot me an email. I do like to mentor people. I do have a pay it forward kind of attitude. So even if you just want to ask me a question about the business or something, just feel free to shoot me an email, and it'd be fun to hear from you.
Awesome. You're so generous. That's awesome. I've learned a lot from you. We were like,
oh, thanks. I'm glad. Yeah.
I didn't have to school. I didn't go to school for all this, you know?
I know. Well, yeah, I do. Because I had super good mentors when I was starting out, and I just feel like it's, I think all of us have a responsibility to then pay it forward in that way.
Yes.
And I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about this forever. So yeah, you know,
especially in niche, because I mean, it's basically everything under the sun, you know.
Right. I know, and I am writing ebooks, and I do want to start or create a course for people who want to publish books, like first-time authors. I have to have the time to do that and make that a priority, you know. So
yeah,
I have a lot of plans. Yeah.
Same here. It just, as long as we're still alive, you know.
I know. Yeah. Right. Well, you know, if we get hey, but then we could write a book on how to survive coronavirus.
Yeah. There you go.
I don't know.
I almost forgot to mention that.
I don't know. But I heard somebody joking about the fact that because people who work at home are used to being alone for weeks on end.
Yes.
So we're going to be fine because we already know how to be alone for 2 months or whatever. So it's like an introvert's dream.
Yes. You know? Yes.
So, but
introvert.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you and I should chat just about the copy editing part too, because I'm gonna need copy editing at some point.
That's great. Hey, it works out. That's why having specialties is important.
Yes.
Nobody can do everything.
Yeah. And who wants to? That would be exhausting.
Oh,
so yeah,
definitely.
well, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. I mean,
it's been really fun.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot, like I said.
Yeah.
We came up with like totally random topics and completely interesting. It's just the interview had a life of its own.
Those are good. Yeah, you asked good questions, so that's part of it. You know, yeah.
I love talking about this too, especially about nonfiction, about keeping it real.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yep. I know. You know.
How'd you come up with your name for your business, for your website? I was just wondering because Melissa means honeybee in Greek.
Right. So, right. So you got it. So yeah, that's why. Because and my nickname has been Honeybee for a long time. Speaking of Burning Man. So I just was like, okay, well, what do I name it that has to do with bees? And then I thought, well, you know, like I'm making the word sweeter, you know, get it? So like words to honey.
Yes.
That's where that came from. Yeah.
Because we're not the grammar police, you know. We're gonna
it's like you're bringing words to me, and then I'm helping you like make them, you know, like more mellifluent, you know, like
yes, there you go.
that was the name of my old Twitter account.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with bees too. Bees and plants and
they go together.
Flowers. Yeah, exactly. So, yep.
I don't know if you watch like TV a lot or TLC. Like I'm obsessed with 90 Day Fiance, and like the
Oh
last
yeah.
the last season had beekeepers. So,
Oh, that's cool. I want to be I just don't know how to do it. So I could get somebody to write a book on it, and then I can read the book. So I actually sometimes work for a company called Callisto, and they did a book on gardening, and I got to work on it. I was so excited. I learned so much. Like, it's just like,
yeah, we could talk all day.
I know. I know. I'm sure you have a time limit there. So
Well, Zoom doesn't have any time limit for one-on-one
yours doesn't.
conversation.
Well, yeah, it's gonna
Only
you
for
probably pay
groups, for a free account, only 40 minutes for free.
40 minutes, yeah. But
gotta love technology.
yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
You remember like I remember when it used to be science fiction that people would be able to talk on the phone with video. Like remember when that used to be weird? Like that was science fiction. Now it's just normal.
On your phone too,
Yeah. Like it used to be total fantasy land, and now here we are.
Yeah, I feel old already because I remember back in the day, like AOL dial-up, you would have
AOL,
45 minutes to log on.
Yeah. Oh my God, that sound. Yeah. That dial-up sound. Yep.
Nobody would think of Wi-Fi.
I know. Well, that's what's so funny about publishing has changed so much.
Yes.
Now you can there's so many options for how you can get your message out. I mean, it's pretty exciting. So I have actually started to be like, I sort of reframed my business, because it used to just be, I mean, I still work with mostly books, but now I'm also strategizing with people in other types of content, because we could just do so much. We have video, we can do blogs with video, we can
multimedia. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's exciting.
Yeah, we're so much to do out there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So are we at time? Are we?
If you think you should wrap up, that's fine too.
Yeah. I think we've answered all the questions, unless you have more.
I think we've covered everything. That's why I skipped some of the questions, because you already answered them.
Yeah.
So,
I know. I wrote like 17 pages of notes.
Oh wow, that's awesome. You can look through the notes. I mean, just in case you forgot something earlier.
Yeah, I think that worked pretty well.
Yeah, we ad-lib too, pretty well too.
Yeah. I guess there's one thing about how do authors set themselves apart in self-publishing, or I mean in psychology and wellness stuff. So, and I guess that's partly also a marketing issue, because you have to. It's really helpful to already be talking to your audience even before the book is published. So ideally you have an approach, like a niche that you already work with people in. So like if you work with relationships, you have a particular model that you're already working on. Like, so if you're seeing clients, so a lot of times when we're trying to figure out an author's unique approach, and if they see clients for their work, is I ask them, what are you seeing what are your clients coming to you for? Like, why are they not going to somebody else? Like, why are they coming to you? And that's like, that can be a really helpful way to figure out like what your unique, value proposition is. And that's it's a huge aspect of creating a book concept that actually is going to reach people, is to understand what your particular thing is that you're offering that's different from other people. Yeah, it's part of the challenge.
Right.
Yeah. So just email me. We can talk about it.
Oh, sure, of course. For those of you just watching this, I mean, well, you can
Yeah.
get in touch with her or me, you know, so we're
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of
right,
the team, so.
right. Yeah. I mean, I want
And
to
we
do.
know a lot of people who do design and formatting and everything, so marketing
Yeah.
coach, so we've got you
Yeah.
covered.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, when I think about content I want to do for my business, I am thinking about doing stuff like where there's like a live chat kind of idea,
Yeah.
and maybe even maybe sort of like you and I are doing now, but maybe with like a live component where people can ask questions. I don't know. I'm thinking a lot about just various different things
Yeah, so many
to
possibilities.
do. Yeah, right. It's like building my own business is just as much work,
Oh, I know.
time as helping other people build theirs. So
Yes. Well,
yeah,
I think we've covered everything.
yeah,
So.
I think so. Well, thanks so much for having me. And
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
yeah,
I mean, I've learned
yeah.
so much, and I'm sure a lot of people will learn a lot too.
I hope so. But if anybody has questions, feel free to email me.
Awesome.
I can procrastinate more on writing my book.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah, that's it.
Totally legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
So I'll talk to you soon. We'll
Talk to
keep
you
in touch.
soon, and thank you again.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.